Some people call Weston one of the most perfectly planned towns in all of South Florida, and after spending some time here, I can see why. It's got that Disney-inspired feel with clean streets, lush landscaping, and a tight-knit community vibe that's pretty rare to find in South Florida. But what's it actually like to live here? Today, we're talking less about real estate in Weston and more about the lifestyle, where to eat, what to do, and what makes this place so special that Walt Disney himself would probably call it home if he could. Let's go check it out. Weston began in the 1950s with about 10 to 15,000 acres of open land out in the Everglades, about 15 miles directly west of Fort Lauderdale. And development officially started in the 1970s by Arvida Corporation, which is a company well known in Florida for building high-end master plan communities across the entire state. But it wasn't until the 90s that Weston started evolving and officially became a city in 1996. So where does Disney come into play? Well, around the same time that Weston was evolving, Disney was working on a master plan community of its own up near Orlando called Celebration. And while Weston may not have been designed by Walt Disney himself, it was developed by the same company and shares many of the same qualities that make it stand out from other South Florida suburbs. So we just came from Fort Lauderdale, a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale, and first thing I gotta say is the drive, super easy. It was only 2 highways, took maybe about 30 minutes or so. First impression of this town is everything feels intentional. I mean, from the way the neighborhoods are laid out, even down to the landscaping, it's very green. Royal palms, once you get off the highway, this isn't your typical suburban neighborhood where you see a mixture of commercial and houses. The commercial is more on the outskirts of town, and then the homes, they kind of have more of a private feel. You see more landscaping than anything else. So I mentioned all the green space out here in Weston, and to be exact, there's over 245 acres of green space, over 48 miles of trails, whether that's biking or walking, and 14 parks, whether you wanna go fishing or outdoor exercise equipment. And the biggest park here in Weston is actually Weston Regional Park, which is a 100-acre massive sports complex with baseball, soccer, pickleball, hockey. You have the YMCA with the pool, exercise facilities, walking trails. They have the community center in the park. And since we're right here at the edge of the Everglades, there's the Sawgrass Recreational Park where you can go camping, fishing, take an airboat tour, and they have different packages online and discounts for Florida residents. But overall, there is a total of 14 public smaller parks throughout the town. And actually, I want to show you something real quick. So Weston's a very bike-friendly city. There's actually over 51 miles of marked public bike lanes throughout the town. And so in some of these parks, you'll actually find these things called bike fix-it stations, which is exactly what it sounds like. From changing a flat to adjusting brakes, it's almost like having your own mechanic lift for your bike. And this is pretty cool. This is actually something I've never seen before. Speaking of things you've never heard of, we're putting out videos like this every week about life in South Florida, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. So Weston isn't all residential or nature like its lifestyle twin Parkland. This is the Weston Town Center, the city's walkable, charming, small town kind of vibe, if you will call it that. And you can really feel the Disney vibes in here with the pastel colors, all the way to the street signs. It was clearly well thought out and designed, and I was here at Christmas time and it was pretty cool the way they had this place decorated. But this is where all the locals hang out. One cool thing about this area is this isn't the type of downtown where you're gonna find anything big box or commercial outside of the Publix and maybe a couple stores like GNC. But you'll notice a lot of cafes, family-owned boutique shops, and restaurants, and a lot of international style cuisine. So you can get the idea of the vibe they were going for when they designed this place. It was very intentional. You're not gonna find your nightlife like Las Olas or downtown Del Rey, or even commercial like the Walking Coral Springs. That's not what people move to Weston for. They move here for that more relaxed, laid back, community focused feel. Speaking of community, let's talk about community events in Weston, because I think this is a really cool way they take this pretty large town and give it that small town, tight knit feel. And another cool thing about the town center is they host a number of free events throughout the year, like live concerts, the annual food and wine festival, and monthly artisan markets. If you take a look down their Instagram, you can get a pretty good idea of just how active this small downtown area is. The city itself also hosts a bunch of special events throughout the year, like monthly concerts, movies in the park, different cultural events, and their annual 4th of July 5K and parade. And most of these events are free as well. And with a calendar of events like this, you and the family will always find something to do every week here in Weston. And speaking of family, schools are pretty important here and one of the big draws to Weston aside from the overall atmosphere. It has 10 public schools here in town, all A-rated in 2024, and 5 private schools. And fun fact, Cypress Bay High School is actually the largest traditional public high school in the entire state of Florida, and it has a 99% graduation rate. So binding that with the tight-knit, small-town local feel makes this town really family-friendly. So when it comes to actually living in Weston, one of the things that our clients really love is actually living in Weston. And when I say that, I mean the housing, the exclusivity, and the variety of housing that you could find here. Weston's a master plan community made up of a bunch of different neighborhoods and subdivisions, each with their own homeowners association. And a majority of the town is gated communities similar to Parkland, but with more variety of housing to choose from. Whether it's condos or townhomes on the north side of town, and then all the different single family home communities. But Weston overall kind of has a very similar look since a majority of it was built all around the same time period. But you still will find those standout neighborhoods like Windmill Ranch Estates, which is a luxury, horse-friendly community of homes on lot sizes ranging from 1 to 4 acres, all the way to Weston Hills, which has 2 18-hole championship golf courses. And then you have one of the newer communities, Botanico, which does not fit the bill of Weston at all. It has more of that Miami ultra modern looking feel. And one thing that you're gonna notice about Weston is that most of the homes here are canal front or lakefront. There's actually over 1,800 lakes and canals in Weston, but don't get too excited because these lakes are not for recreational use. They're actually owned and operated by the city, used as a drainage system to store excess rainwater. All the lakes are interconnected underground as part of the city's stormwater management system, where the excess water is drained out and flows out to the canals, which drain into the Everglades. Now, what about jobs in Weston? Since it is more of that suburban kind of spaced out community, it's a little bit out there from both Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but believe it or not, there's actually a lot of large companies that either have headquarters or distribution centers down here, like Marriott International, DHL, Royal Caribbean, American Express, a distribution center for Office Depot and Nabisco, and then you have the Cleveland Clinic, and then of course your local mom and pop stores and people who work remote. Now, despite Weston being this suburb all the way out by the Everglades, it really does have something for everybody. So if you're planning on buying or even selling a home anywhere in South Florida, my team and I want to be your real estate resource of choice. So reach out to us by going to therealsouthflorida.com/YouTube or shoot me a text or an email. And by the way, let me know in the comments if you like this vloggy lifestyle type of video. And we'll see you on the next one.